Hello, welcome back to another breaking news update. My name is Jimmy Boyd, and you were watching Boyd News. I want to thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm back with another update coming out from the war between Russia and Ukraine, and I've got tons of big news to share with all of you today. So today's date is January 6, 2025, and it is Monday. Hope you all had a great weekend. I was not here Sunday or Saturday. Sundays are usually a scheduled day off for me, for those of you that might be new to the channel. But also on Saturday, I decided to just take that day off and rest up, as last week I was sick and wasn't feeling too well. But I feel so much better this week. It looks like we're 100% now. We can get back to this. So we're going to go ahead and start talking about several big topics. Yesterday, with this war, some of you might be aware of this, but Ukraine launched a new offensive in the Kursk region. We've been hearing over the last couple weeks, also from Alexander Sursky, I think it was like a week or a week and a half ago, he reported that Ukraine was going to be launching a new offensive very soon. And this may be the offensive he was talking about, as Ukraine launched an offensive in multiple directions in the Kursk region. I've got several maps we can go over, and I'll kind of update you guys on that situation in case you're not fully aware of what's going on. But this was widely reported yesterday, so some of you might be aware of some of these details, so just bear with me as we go through that. We're going to talk about the Kursk region a lot today, but also a new story just coming out today from the Ukrainian Navy. They reportedly destroyed 3 Russian air defense units in 24 hours. Okay, so this is most likely down in the southern portion of Ukraine, or maybe even in Crimea. We don't know exactly where these attacks took place at, but I do have some reports that maybe Magura V5 naval drones could have been used in these attacks, as we've been hearing recently that Ukraine now installs FPV drones to the top of Magura V5 naval drones down in the Black Sea, and they launch FPV drone attacks using these naval drones. So I have some information that talks about that as well. And then also Ukraine's Southern Defense Forces were reporting today that the enemy lost 2 S-300 air defense systems also. So there's a possibility there could have been a total of 5 air defense systems destroyed in total, but we know for sure Ukraine's Navy reporting today that 3 air defense systems have been destroyed. It was 2 Panzer S-1 anti-aircraft missile systems and also 1 OSA air defense system, okay? So major losses on the Russian side. These things are very expensive. So we're going to go ahead and jump right into this. Let me start sharing all these details with you. We also have numerous other things we're going to discuss in this video, so let's go ahead and get right into this. By the way, this is video footage coming out from Ukraine today, showcasing one of the Panzer S-1 air defense systems that were directly hit from an FPV drone. Okay, this came from Ukraine's Navy. So let's hop on over here to the Kiev Independent. It says Ukraine strikes 3 Russian air defense systems in a single day, Navy claims. This just coming out today, Monday, January 6, 2025. Here's a screenshot of that video that we just showed you from Ukraine's Navy as they struck a Panzer S-1 air defense system, most likely inside of Ukraine or maybe in Crimea. We don't know exactly, again, where it got hit at. But it says right here, 2 Russian anti-missile Panzer S-1 systems and 1 OSA anti-aircraft vehicle were damaged or destroyed by Ukraine's Navy in one day, the military branch claimed on January 6. Our soldiers continue to turn Russian equipment into scrap metal, Ukrainian Navy Commander Oleksiy Naizpapa, hopefully I'm pronouncing that right, said in a Facebook post referring to 3 successful attacks. In his post, Naizpapa shared a video apparently depicting a drone zeroing in on a Russian Panzer S-1 vehicle, claiming that the 2 Panzer S-1 were destroyed in the occupied territory of Ukraine's Kherson Oblast. Okay, so they're reportedly saying, yeah, down here in the Kherson Oblast, that would have been in the southern portion of Ukrainian territory, probably in Russian-controlled areas, is where this attack took place. So usually when it's Ukraine's Navy, it's usually down in the south somewhere. They're either in Russian-controlled southern portions of Ukraine or maybe in Crimea is usually where these reports come from. So that was just an update there from the Kiev Independent, just to give you that official article. Now we're going to hop on over to X, and I've got some information to show you guys where these other attacks took place in regards to these air defense systems being destroyed. So we have a new report here from Max24, and if you take a look at this from Petro Shuklanov, okay, this is a report most likely on Telegram. It says here, a historical event, Ukrainian Defense Forces destroyed 2 Russian Panzer and Osu in the deep rear of the occupiers near Skadovsk. Judging by open data, they were destroyed by drones launched from unmanned sea boats, that is, A new model of an aircraft carrier was added to the function of kamikaze boats and anti-aircraft boats. This significantly changes the prospects of using drones against the Russians in the occupied territories, and in general, the logic of waging war at sea and on land. I congratulate everyone involved in the development, implementation, and the special operation near Skadovsk. Low bow, sincere admiration, limited respect, and we are waiting for official details. All right, so we can see from these details here, it says they were destroyed by drones launched from unmanned sea boats. Okay, so most likely these were Magur V5 drones that were being used. These are naval drones, and we also recently saw this down in Crimea when Ukraine utilized many of these Magur V5 drones and also attaching FPV drones to the tops of them, and they'll launch these FPV drones off these boats and control them remotely, attack targets, and supposedly that's how at least one of these Panzer S-1 air defense systems were destroyed. Maybe more of them were also being used to destroy other air defense units in the area, okay? So very big news today. Also from War Translator Dmitry, over the past day, the enemy lost 5 air defense systems. The Ukrainian Navy reported the destruction of 2 Panzer S-1 anti-aircraft missile and gun systems and 1 OSA air defense system. So we know about that. And also here, take a look at this. The Southern Defense Forces reported that the enemy lost 2 S-300 air defense systems. It is not specified whether they were destroyed or merely damaged. Okay, so here's that video you guys were watching here on the waiting screen when you came in of this Panzer S-1 air defense system being targeted down in the Kherson region now that we know. Yeah, so it looks like even 2 S-300 air defense systems reportedly being destroyed or maybe damaged over the last 24 hours or so. So it looks like maybe even a total of 5 air defense systems in total, okay? Massive losses on the Russian side being reported today. And then also think about what's happening in the Kursk region too, okay? The Russians are definitely not doing too well all around when it comes to this battle. Aside from maybe the Eastern Front, we do have some reports in the Donetsk region. The Russians are continuing to advance over there. So let's move on to some other updates now. We're going to talk about the Kursk region, and I'll kind of give you the latest that I know about. So for Max 24, AFU managed to advance 8 kilometers in the Kursk region according to Russian Vonkers. And the map is from the Institute from the Study of War. So we have this map here from the ISW and showing 3 separate areas of the Kursk region right now where the Ukrainians are holding on to, which is the blue area. So we know that in the northwestern portion, they did launch some sort of offensive over here, but the northwestern side and also the western side of the current offensive of the Ukrainians is heavily controlled by the Russians. So I'm not sure how far they will get with that. But over here on the east and northeast side, 2 significant pushes in this area. I'm not sure, don't have too many updates over here on the eastern side, but on the northeastern section up here near a city called Berdin and also Bolsho Soldatsko, lots of reports coming out from here that Ukrainians are advancing in that area, and they're getting close to a town called Berdin, which is just on the little tip of this blue section here in the very center of this circle. So it says here, geolocated footage posted on January 5th indicates that Ukrainian forces advanced to southern Berdin. So they could even be in there right now, as far as I know. We have reports today, though, showing that they have advanced on the outskirts of that town. They could maybe even be inside there right now. So also says Russian sources reported that Ukrainian forces occupy Cherkaskoy and Porechnoy as of January 5th. Okay, also in those same areas on the northeastern side as they made that very big push. Also says Russian sources reported that Ukrainian forces occupy Martinovka and Mikhailovka as of January 5th. Okay, this being on the eastern front. Okay, so just pay attention to these 3 main areas over here, but particularly the northeastern side is where a lot of reports are coming out of, and I think this is the least defended area out of all of these from what I understand, okay? So also from Intel Schizo, Ukraine has gone on the offensive in Kursk. Ukraine is spearheading 3 different assaults towards a Bolsho, Soldatsko, Pushkarno, Leonidovo. These towns are defended by Akhmat, 810th, North Koreans, and several Storm Z units. Russian channels have been showing footage of Ukrainian forces using a large number of mine clearers, tanks, armored vehicles, and report heavily utilizing electronic warfare, making most drones useless. Meanwhile, Russians are attacking into Sumy on the border where they have been trying for the last 2 weeks, and in Kursk near Malaya Lochnia. Ran out of room to showcase the rest of the Russian units on the western side of the Kursk. Check out Gemini W, latest update from December 20th, 2024, as a reference. Based on Russian reports, the Ukrainians are having the most successful today so far near Bolshoy-Sodotsko, which is defended by Akhmat. Okay, so the Chechens are heavily defending the northeastern portion of here, and this is where this town of Bolshoy-Sodotsko, Sodotsko, if I'm saying that right, is where the Ukrainians are mostly pushing for. Okay, so the northeastern side is where a lot of the reports are coming out today. Heavy fighting taking place in that area. So here's a little map to kind of show the different directions Ukraine is pushing and where some of the Russian positions are at. And there were some videos apparently. Also here you can see a few photos. They're very small, but showing some of the Russian columns, or excuse me, Ukrainian columns as they were pushing forward with their offensives in these different areas, okay? So moving on to another update from Ukraine Control Map. Russian Telegram reports Ukraine undertook offensive action in Kursk this morning, pushing northeast towards Berdyn and Bolshoy-Soldatsko. Okay, so once again, another report, and I pulled this up to show you guys, it's like a better map in my opinion, showing the Russian position. So if you notice over here on the northwestern side, okay, it's very heavily controlled by the Russians over here. Lots of these little red dots. And these little kind of red squares showing lots of Russian positions over here. And also the Ukrainians, you can see they've got major defensive positions on the northwestern side of their offensive as well. But primarily up in here in this area, you can see not a whole lot of defenses from the Russians, and even the Ukrainians not focusing on this area too much as well. And this is where they mainly launched majority of their offensive. Okay, you can see this little arrow pointing this direction. Here's the town of Berdyn right here. As far as we know, the Ukrainians could be in that city, or at least in the outskirts. And according to this report, that's what it shows here from War Translated Dmitry. The Russians report renewed attacks on Berdyn in the Kursk region. So here was the original report, most likely on Telegram. That was in Russian, and we have it translated into English, and it says, "It is reported that the Ukrainian armed forces have once again deployed a column of equipment to the village of Berdyn in the Kursk region, where the enemy managed to land on the outskirts yesterday." Okay, so from what we understand, they could be inside of Berdyn right now, but at the bare minimum, at least on the outskirts of that town, as they launched their offensive in the northeastern portion of the Kursk region with their current offensive, okay? So from the Ukrainian Review now, the Russians in Kursk region are in great distress because they were attacked from several directions, and it came as a surprise to them. This was according to the head of CPD Kovalenko. Okay, this is Andrei Kovalenko, the head for the Center for Countering Disinformation. That was his statement coming out today, or yesterday, excuse me. And also yesterday, Kursk region, good news, Russia's getting what it deserves. That's from Andrei Yermak, who is the head for the presidential office in Ukraine. He works very closely with Volodymyr Zelensky. That's what he stated, okay? So looks like their offensive so far is turning out to work very well in favor of Ukraine, okay? So that's very bad news for the Russians. Think about the Russians, okay? We just heard about roughly about 2 months ago or so, maybe a month and a half, that Vladimir Putin had ordered his troops to push Ukraine out of the Kursk region before Trump gets into office, okay? That's just about a little over 2 weeks from now. That Trump's going to be inaugurated into office, and Russia hasn't gotten anywhere close to pushing Ukraine out. Now, they have taken some land away from Ukraine, probably about 40 to 50% of the original land that was claimed during the very beginning of the offensive back in August, September, around that area. But Ukraine is still holding on very strong, and now with this new offensive, it's going to delay that even further, and who knows, maybe Ukraine will even gain back even more territory very soon. So moving on to another update from David D. Russian Telegram saying that Ukraine may advance to Glishkovo and they are getting ready to move. WTF. The Russians have two divisions there on paper. Are they that weak and effed up is what he says. So I want to talk about Glishkovo a little bit as this report coming out today. You know, this is an area right here. Here's the town of Glishkovo. But this entire section here under this kind of white line, which is where a major river runs in the Kursk region, we reported, towards the beginning, it was like the first 2 to 3 months, I want to say, that Ukraine was talking a lot about trying to take over this region right before Russia had launched a major counteroffensive, started to push Ukraine back from this area. They were getting very close to here at one point, and if they were to take this over, take complete control of this under this major river here, They would have controlled apparently somewhere around 700 or more kilometers of territory in the Kursk region. This would have been much easier for them to defend this too, considering that there's a river right here. But Ukraine eventually did get pushed back. But now we're hearing that they might be trying a second push onto Glushkovo once again, or the Glushkovsky district, which is this entire area right here, okay, from the left side of your screen where it's cut off all the way over here to the edge of this white line, okay? So we'll see what happens if they try to go for it again, but we do know, again, there's lots of Russians up here in this area. That's going to make it difficult for them to completely push over here west this direction, unless the Ukrainians cross over the border in this area here. We'll see what happens, okay? Also for Max 24, the goal of Ukrainian armed forces offensive is to seize the Kursk nuclear power plant, according to Russian Volkers. Okay, so this was being reported also today from the Russian side. A lot of reports coming out that Ukraine could be potentially pushing for the Kurchatov nuclear power plant, okay? That's up here in the city of Kurchatov, and Sutsa right now is currently controlled by the Ukrainians, and if they were to get up here, would they take control of the nuclear power plant? I mean, let me know what you think down below. This has been talked about for months now. I'm not sure if this would be a major objective for the Ukrainians, but that's what the Russian side is supposedly stating in the last 24 hours. Considering that they are moving that direction, maybe it could be a goal for them, but who really knows? We'll have to see what happens here, but that was a report coming out today as well. But let me know what you think down in the comment section. Also from Anton Gerashenko, Russian Z bloggers report that Ukrainians are in assault in Kursk region. According to them, Ukraine used powerful electronic warfare so Russian drones can't fly. Heavy combat is taking place. Ukrainian General Staff reported 42 combats in Kursk region, 12 of them are ongoing. Reportedly, the video shows Ukrainian electronic warfare in Kursk region. A Russian drone tries to approach an armored vehicle and drops down. So take a look at this. Apparently the Ukrainians are upping their electronic warfare, especially inside the Kursk region. They've been knocking down a lot of Russian drones in that area too. So apparently a lot of the Russian drones are ineffective at destroying any Ukrainian vehicles, as a lot of their electronic warfare is jamming these and bringing them down. This is reportedly a video showing that. And apparently the only drones that are really effective are some of the fiber optic drones, but many of the drones that they are using are apparently not working out very well for the Russians, okay? Also from the Ukrainian Review, Blinken, Ukraine's position in Kursk region is important because it will be taken into account in any negotiations that may take place next year. He also noted that even in the event of negotiations, Ukraine will need reliable security guarantees because Putin will not consider the conflict over. Okay, this was a report coming out from Antony Blinken just today, him reportedly stating that over the last 24 hours. So, obviously, we do know that the Ukrainians are trying to desperately hold on to the Kursk region right now. They most likely are going to use that within their negotiations, which is also why they most likely launched this offensive. As Russia has been slowly pushing Ukraine out of the Kursk region, but not completely. So they're probably doing this to delay that even further. Then in terms of reliable security guarantees, we've been talking about this for a long time. Ukraine's seeking that right now. The stronger that Ukraine is, whether they're able to get into NATO or whether they're able to, mass produce lots of missiles, have a strong military and whatnot, be able to strike into Russia if Russia ever tries to attack them ever again. They want to be strong militarily. That's obviously a security guarantee for them as well. But a lot of this has to do with the West and how much the West is going to support them. So let me know what you think about those details down below. Also from Max 24, more and more drones in Kursk. Okay, we got a couple videos here to show you. This first video is actually going to show some sort of explosion in the distance. You're not going to really see the fireball or anything, but you're going to see some people standing here on the street and they hear that drone coming in the Kursk region. All of a sudden, some major explosion. And this video shows sounds of drones in the skies. You can't really see them because it's at night. But apparently there were some drone attacks taking place in the Kursk region last night as well. So I'm going to show you these real quick. We'll start with this first one here. All right, so it looks like something significant may have been hit over here. Definitely sounds like it crashed at one point, but we can tell for sure it's very close to whatever town this is in the Kursk region. And these two people were over here standing here checking out what's going on. And then once they heard that thing explode and blow up, they just went ahead and walked along on their way. So we'll take a look at one more video over here. right, so as far as I know, last night these were mainly the only drone attacks that were being reported. I didn't have any other video evidence or any information indicating any other areas were attacked last night. But we do know the Kursk region was heavily attacked by drones last night, and there's video footage there. So moving on to another update from Bliskovka, Russians have advanced in the Donetsk region, according to deep state maps. In particular, in the areas of Toretsk, Zeleny, Petropavlivka, Vozvizenka, sorry, that one's tough to say, Barnivka, and Pishani. Okay, so several areas in the Eastern Front, the Russians reportedly are still moving forward. Okay, this has been increasing over the last probably 4 or 5 months. The Russians have been gaining more and more territory on the Eastern Front. Here's the city of Pokrovsk right here. We've been talking about this. The Russians are still continuing to circle around and eventually may be able to cut off this major supply route for the town of Pokrovsk, but so far they have been unable to. But all these arrows are indicating the different regions where the Russians are pushing forward on the Eastern Front. So although the Ukrainians are making some advancements in the Kursk region and, holding the Russians back in the south so far, like in Kherson, we've been talking about that recently. The Eastern Front still not looking good, okay? The Russians are still continuing to push forward from what we're seeing. This information was just coming out yesterday evening. Also from PS01 in the city of Apsheronsk in the Krasnodar region, a drone landed tonight and 55,000 people were left without electricity. Set fire to an electrical substation in southern Russia. 55,000 people were left without electricity. So it looks like we did have one attack also reported in the Krasnodar region. There was a electrical substation apparently being destroyed here by a drone. So go ahead and take a look at this. So it looks like pretty major damage being reported here on this electrical substation. This was a big video coming out just yesterday also showing this attack on this electrical facility. So it looks like we had some major damage being reported here. So moving on to another update now. This one from the Ukrainian Review again. Russia may start sharing satellite technology with North Korea, according to Antony Blinken. He claims that this will be done in exchange for more troops that North Korea will send to participate in the war in Ukraine. All right, so this can't be good. So Russia may be sharing satellite technology with the North Koreans, according to Antony Blinken. That's very big news. I mean, we've been seeing the Russians and North Korea working more heavily together. The North Koreans been supplying lots of weaponry over to Russia as well, now troops. It looks like they could be working even more closely together with their military ties and even including sharing satellite technology. So very big news today coming out from there. Also from the Ukrainian Review, again, I told Trump, give us $300 billion from Russian assets and we will buy weapons from you, invest in your industry, said Zelensky. Today, Putin is afraid of Trump. Putin is like Voldemort. He who cannot be named, he added. Okay, so we've been hearing over the last few weeks also from Volodymyr Zelensky. He's been calling for the West to provide this $300 billion of frozen Russian assets sitting in banks all across Europe and basically just give it over to Ukraine, okay? Considering that Russia has damaged and destroyed so much of Ukraine, he's come out and said that, that should be rightfully ours. You just give it to us, give that money over to us before Trump gets into office. I don't think that'll happen that quickly, but who knows? Maybe Trump might hand it over to Ukraine at some point. Maybe if they are able to strike some sort of business deal where Ukraine can invest into the U.S. and buy weapons from them, that could obviously benefit the United States. So who knows? Maybe that will be something that will happen moving forward. But Zelensky's been calling to receive that $300 billion in frozen Russian assets for several weeks now. Also from Euromaidan Press, faced with relentless Ukrainian drone strikes, Russian forces shifted away from tank assaults and adopted new military tactics. Now Russian troops are dispersing their infantry units as smaller units are harder to target than long columns of vehicles. Okay, this was a report allegedly from the Forbes, and Euromaidan Press also covered this story as well. And apparently the Russians are starting to spread their troops apart more and maybe engage in more infantry attacks versus Russian tank columns, as the drones are still a major problem for the Russians, okay? These FPV drones are just absolutely devastating, destroying lots of Russian equipment. So this is another indicator that the Ukrainian drones are very effective right now and have been for some time. So I just wanted to share that story with you. All right, moving on to another update from Bliskovka. Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, Oleksandr Syrsky, approved the creation of a separate medical unit in Ukraine. This was reported by Medical Service of the International Legion of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. According to representatives of the Legion, the creation of such a unit will allow to scale up the experience of doctors and improve the provision of medical care in the combat zone. All right, so I thought this was a very big report coming out today, also regarding Ukraine's medical care with their troops, as we also been reporting to you guys recently over the last couple of months that even Vladimir Zelensky will visit underground medical centers. Ukraine's been building a lot of those to protect their troops from aerial attacks. So it looks like Ukraine is heavily focusing on their medical units also and make sure that their troops receive the proper care if they're wounded in battle. So that was a big report coming out today also. Now for Bliskovka, after power cuts in unrecognized Transnistria, water may be cut off as well, according to Newsmaker. Due to the decrease in pressure in the network that occurs during rolling blackouts, the upper floors of houses in Bender and Tiraspol may be left without water. Okay, so I did see a video that was coming out today also regarding Transnistria. We talked about this last week, I think it was on Friday, that Transnistria basically doesn't have any power for the most part. No power, barely any heat or no heat at all. And now they're having issues with water, okay? I saw a video recently that there was people out in the streets literally just cooking for, lots of families, as lots of the running water is not even working right now inside of Transnistria. So they're definitely starting to move towards a full-blown humanitarian crisis, and it's not looking good there for the people that are in Transnistria right now. This is a breakaway region of Moldova, very close to Ukraine on the Ukrainian border. And we could be potentially seeing Ukraine maybe even invade Transnistria at some point. Who knows if that's going to happen, as I do have a report talking about that today here from Ostap Vishnya. And it says Russian bloggers report on the movement of Ukrainian troops near the border of Russian-occupied Transnistria. I mean, if the Ukrainians were to do this, this would be the prime time to do it while the government is going to be weak over there. There's no power, there's no heat, barely any water now. I mean, the people are going to be suffering there very soon. It's only been not even a week so far, but very soon, within the next couple of weeks, when people start running out of supplies and there's no water, there's going to be major issues over there, maybe even some uprising. This would be the time for Ukraine to move in if they wanted to liberate Transnistria, or maybe Moldova might make a move. Who knows what's going to happen here, but it's going to get very interesting what happens over the next couple weeks in Transnistria, and could be another major loss for the Russians here very soon. Also from Kiev Post, Russian aviation is falling deeper into a global crisis as 2 passenger jets suffered engine failures, one after another, within 2 days. Okay, this was being widely reported over the last probably 3 days. I want to say since Saturday. There was a lot of reports coming out regarding Russian airliners. Okay, some of their jets are starting to have mid-flight engine failures. Okay, that's not good. And a lot of this due to the sanctions that are being placed on Russia. They can't even maintain a lot of their airlines. So if it was me, I would not want to fly on any of these airlines inside of Russia right now, as they can't even really maintain a lot of these. And we could be seeing some of these potentially even crashing at some point, or having to start make a lot of emergency landings throughout the airports in Russia, as these planes are going to be breaking down very soon. Okay, so very scary. Also from Max 24, the Biden administration plans to impose more sanctions on Russia before Trump takes office on January 20th, taking aim at its oil revenues with action against tankers carrying Russian crude, says Reuters. Sanctions targeting tankers that carry Russian oil sold above the West $60 per barrel, price cap. Okay, so we do know that the Russians are doing this. Many of their shadow fleet vessels are transporting oil around the world above $60 a barrel, which is helping them profit immensely. Looks like the Biden administration is going to go after the shadow fleet vessels, and this could be very devastating to the Russians, depending on how many of these oil tankers are targeted. And we just had a report last week that a Russian vessel that was coming from St. Petersburg, supposedly trying to damage some cables in the Gulf of Finland, was also seized by Finland. So that vessel is no longer going to be used by Russia. Also, now the Biden administration going to go after a lot of these other Shadow Fleet vessels, which could definitely put a major strain on Russia's economy if they can no longer transport oil or make it very difficult for them to do so. All at a time where Russia is enduring major inflation in their country and they have huge economic problems. Okay, so that's very big news today. Also, for more translated Dmitry, Kamensk, Shakhtinsky, Rostov region, something is producing heavy smoke. The city is home to the Kamensky plant, a chemical enterprise specializing in the production of rocket engine fuel for Uragan, Smerch, Tornado S, and Iskander systems. There are also military warehouses connected to the plant, and it seems that they might be the source of the smoke. So somebody captured some smoke over here in the Rostov region just today. We don't know exactly what is the cause of this fire, but I noticed it is white smoke, so it's possibly indicating that maybe it's not a fire like at a building, because it would probably be black smoke. And it's definitely not oil or anything like that, but I'm not sure exactly what was the cause of a fire over here, but something is producing lots of white smoke in the area. Let me know what you think down below what this could possibly be, but there is some major military infrastructure located in this area according to this information. Also, for more translated Dmitry, a new photo of liberated Bakhmut has emerged. So take a look at this, guys. A new photo coming out from Bakhmut. We haven't talked about this city in a long time. Okay, it was taken by the Russians quite a while back, and look at how destroyed it is. Okay, so just imagine, what is the point of taking over these towns and completely just obliterating them? How are they ever going to be used again? So pretty sad to see this. Just a new photo that was coming out today from Bakhmut, and we haven't talked about this in quite a while now, so I thought I'd show that to you guys. So moving on to another update from Bandura Fella. We can't drop FABs or FABs or use drones. Ukrainian electronic warfare is jamming everything, according to Fighter Bomber. Now, Fighter Bomber is an aviation channel that is Russian-controlled on Telegram, and we report from Fighter Bomber every now and then. It says this is massive. With their electronic warfare shuts down even guided bombs, the game has changed. So that is very big news, okay? So not only drones, but even their guided bombs can't be used also, okay? So that's very big news, and can make it very difficult for Russia to continue hammering Ukraine with all these Fab 1500s. They have 3000s, lots of different sizes, 500 kilogram bombs that they use. We've talked a lot about these. These are glide bombs. And if the electronic warfare is up and jamming these, it's going to be very difficult for them to target inside of Ukraine and fire these. So very big news also today. All right, now from next, 13 confirmed cases of metapneumovirus have been officially recorded in Ukraine. The virus is similar in symptoms to the flu, can cause upper and lower respiratory tract infections. Transmission occurs through airborne droplets. At-risk groups include young children, the elderly, and individuals with weakened immune systems. Metapneumovirus, was first identified in 2001 and belongs to the Pneumoviridae family, along with the respiratory syncytial virus. In 2025, a deadly virus outbreak occurs in China that could be more dangerous than COVID-19. So we had big reports just coming out last week that there's a major virus that's starting to move around through China right now. Apparently, it's causing some pretty heavy respiratory problems for many people inside of China. This thing is starting to spread around the world right now. Maybe some of you guys have heard about this, but it's not picking up a whole lot of mainstream news coverage, but there are some sources starting to cover this now, and hopefully this doesn't turn into another major epidemic, but it looks like it is starting to get pretty out of control right now, and reports are starting to surface in many countries around the world that this virus is starting to surface, okay? So very scary. Just wanted to report that to you also. Now from Anton Gerashenko, the president of Azerbaijan has said that the blame for the death of the country's citizens in the plane crash near Aktau, Kazakhstan, lies with the representatives of Russia. I can say with certainty that the blame for the death of Azerbaijani citizens in the disaster lies with representatives of the Russian Federation. We demand justice, punishment of the guilty, full transparency and human approach, Ilham Aliyev said at a meeting with the families of the dead crew members and surviving flight attendants. According to Aliyev, the disaster could have been avoided if the Chechen authorities had closed the airspace in time. The ground services acted in accordance with the rules, and the Russian armed forces and civilian services had proper coordination. attempts to conceal the circumstances of the incident and present it as the result of a collision with birds and or a gas cylinder, have raised serious doubts about the objectivity of the investigation, he said. In addition, Aliyev emphasized that if the Russian authorities had made attempts to objectively investigate the incident in the first hours since the plane crash, Azerbaijan would have allowed the Interstate Aviation Committee to decipher the flight data recorders. Aliyev added that the decryption of the flight data recorders is ongoing. I'm sure that in the near future, we will know the preliminary result and everything will fall into place. The whole picture of the tragedy will be known, and this, of course, will be an important moment in the full investigation of this tragedy and punishment of those responsible for it. So here's a picture of that plane crash. We talked about this about a week and a half ago or so. This Azerbaijan Airlines that was reportedly shot down by Russian air defense systems over Grozny in Chechnya in Russian-controlled territory. And they were forced to fly over the Caspian Sea instead of landing inside of Russia. They were refused to emergency land inside of Russia, and they ended up crash landing in Aktau, Kazakhstan, and most of the people on board died, and there was probably about 29 or so that survived, I believe. And the Azerbaijani authorities have been accusing Russia the entire time. Looks like they're still doing that, saying that Russia is fully responsible for this airliner crash in Kazakhstan. And maybe these lives could have been saved if they were to emergency land inside of Russia, but Russia did not allow that for some reason. So that was an update coming out from that story today. Finally, two more things to share with you here from Max 24. Ukrainian air defense destroyed 128 out of 128 Shahed UAVs, including 79 drones shot down and 49 suppressed by electronic warfare, and 2 out of 2 Kh-59 missiles. Okay, so very big news today. Okay, lots of drones going into Ukraine last night, and Ukraine's reporting that they're able to shoot down almost all of them, if not everything. Okay, so that's very big news. Looks like Ukraine is getting better at electronic warfare and taking down a lot of these drones coming into their territory. Okay, 128 is definitely a lot more than we normally see. So very big attack into Ukraine last night. Finally, one last report here from the Kyiv Independent. These are the indicative estimates of Russia's combat losses as of January 6, according to the armed forces of Ukraine. It says here, Russia's losses as of January 6, according to the Ukrainians, says 1,550 troops, 45 AFVs, 116 vehicles and fuel tanks, 14 tanks, 62 artillery systems, 178 UAVs, 1 MLRS, 2 anti-aircraft warfare systems, and also 4 special equipment. Okay, so lots of losses being reported on the Russian side today, and just wanted to give you that final update from our video today. So lots of news coming out today. I understand it was a longer video. I want to thank you so much if you hung out with me to the very end. But that's going to be it for today's update. If you got something out of this, please smash that like button. Also, if you enjoy my content, please consider subscribing down below. Hit the notification bell. That way YouTube can notify you. And with that, hope you all have a great day. Everybody take care and God bless. And we'll see you in the next one.